So welcome back. This is, another kind of succession-related matter, but there is always a designated survivor, and you might have heard that term. There was a TV show that was on, I think, 3 or 4 years ago called Designated Survivor that was based on the premise of what I'm about to talk about. So if we have an event like a State of the Union address, or if we have a presidential inauguration, if we have any sort of government function where the entirety of the United States government is going to be congregated in one place, there's one person that is in the line of succession to the presidency that is sent to an undisclosed location. And an undisclosed location, I mean, it could just mean the kitchen at Observatory Circle, which is the vice president's residence, or the basement of the White House. It doesn't, when you think undisclosed location, you think like there's a bomb shelter or, Mount Weather. Not the case. Undisclosed just means you don't know where you are. Nobody knows where you are. So, as I said, the entirety of our government is usually in one location. The justices of the Supreme Court have taken to skipping the State of the Union in more recent years, but the entire line of succession to the executive branch is the important thing. And we need to have somebody ready to take over in case something was to happen. Now, there are certain people who would never fit this bill. Dr. Janet Yellen, who is the Secretary of the Treasury and now and formerly the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve. She's a famous face. She's well known in certain circles and people who follow government like me. Biden would want her at events like a State of the Union. Biden would want cameras to catch her there. So we would be talking somebody like down the line, like the Secretary of Agriculture or the Secretary of Transportation. The designated survivor. Okay, these two links explain the scenario pretty well. Again, I can't play them for you because I can't get copyright claimed and have my channel shut down, but I definitely encourage you and want you to watch these links. When they start, I think it's this one, I'm pretty sure, they'll start talking about the TV show Designated Survivor. I mean, if you're interested in it, watch. If not, skip over it. So, the president, as you know, is the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces, as per Article 2, Section 2 of the United States Constitution. So the president shall be, and again, right from the Constitution, Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states when called into the actual service of the United States. So there they're talking about federalizing what would become the National Guard and saying that that is permissible. So, when does the president become commander-in-chief, and when is it legal for him to act that way? Well, it happens. I mean, it just is. That's part of the job title. He is the commander-in-chief from the time he assumes office until the second he leaves. When is it legal to act as commander-in-chief? Now, that is a matter of considerable debate in which reasonable people can have differing views. One view, the constitutional view, is the president can declare an armed conflict, but Congress has to ratify it. In other words, Congress has to declare war. That's one view. The other view, is what we see playing out. The president has to do what he has to do to protect the American national security. But what is national security, you'd have to ask. And how does that definition change from administration to administration? And that's a good question, which we will actually discuss because we're going to do a unit next on the war powers. So the president is always commander-in-chief, as I said, but it's debatable when he can use those powers. And again, this is a matter in which reasonable people can disagree. It just depends upon who you ask. The Constitution says when Congress says it's okay. More recently, not quite. The last time we actually declared a war, not Vietnam, not Korea, not anything like that, when we declared a war and the Congress did it, Congress having that power to declare war, was June 4th, 1942, against Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania. They had joined the Axis powers in World War II. So our forebears did not at all give the political class many powers in wartime. They saw that the failure of a weak executive under the Articles of Confederation and didn't want a repeat of that. They wanted a single leader, not 13 governors, not 13 state congresses, however many, trying to coordinate. But also, the framers of the Constitution did not want the executive to be unchecked. So, Congress had the power and has the power to declare war. They have the power to control military resources. They have the power to check the executive, and they can do it. They don't do it, and that's a matter of debate why they've kind of stopped doing it, but there it is. The legislature also controls the purse strings. So, funding, which is probably the only piece of leverage they have left on the executive branch, is a very strong check. Okay, you want to go to North Korea and invade. Fine, Mr. President. We're not going to pay for it, though. Well, how are the troops going to get there? So, the two sides to this, Congress says, okay, the declare war clause in the Constitution and the mark and reprisal clause give Congress broad power over wartime activities, and that the president has no authority to initiate hostilities without any prior approval from the Congress. And this is true, according to the Constitution anyway. If you just read the Constitution straight, this is correct. The president also makes an argument, says Congress only has power over funding and the removal of executive officers. The executive vesting clause and his commander-in-chief clause give him power to insert the military into hostile situations as he sees fit. Again, we're going into the realm of the president doing things in the name of national security, which, up to you, may or may not be a good thing, depending on what the president thinks national security means. So, we have a clear distinction here between Congress's power to declare war and the president's ability to repel invasions of military force. And this is the exception. If the Japanese invaded California, nobody in the country would bat an eye if the president sent the military to kick them out. That is expected. That's part of the president's job description, to repel invasions of the homeland. He's supposed to do that. Now that's the exception. So Operation Urgent Fury is our case study, and we will come back with that in a minute.